So welcome, this is going to be a Subnautica tier list for all the fauna. This is just what I think of them, and I'm going to be rating them. Sorry if I forget some of their names, especially the weirder ones that are kind of like alternate versions that exist in the depths of the world. So starting with the classic air bladder, it's pretty useful. It gives you air when you need it, or sorry, I meant water. And it's got a pretty cool design that's pretty unique, so I think I'm going to put it in an A tier because I really like them. Next we've got the Ampule. Now, the Ampule, I wouldn't say it's the most original design. It's very clearly based off of just electric eels. It's cool for what it is, I guess, but because it's not too original and not too crazy looking or does anything too crazy, I'm going to put it as a C tier. Next, we've got an ancient floater. So I think floaters are pretty cool just because they're pretty unique as an idea of this kind of like parasite thing, and I really like ancient floaters because I think they're pretty cool for what they are and how they can like lift islands and stuff due to the huge amount of mass or that they've, I guess, consumed over time, and that they've been around for a while, so I'll put them as B. Next we've got biters. Now, biters are kind of okay. I don't know, I don't think they're that crazy as an enemy. They've got like 4 eyes total, but they're not a crazy design. They're kind of annoying in game. They don't play a huge part, so I'm going to put them with the Ampule at C. Next, we've got the Bleeders, if I remember their name. I might be forgetting that. But these are kind of cool. They're kind of annoying, but that's kind of what they're designed to be. I like their design as how they look and stuff, so I'm going to put them as a B tier. Next we've got the Abyss kind of biter. Oops, I'm messing around with that. I don't remember what this one's called. Oh, I think it's called a Blighter. I think it's a bit cooler than the regular biter, and it looks a bit scarier, though I rarely ever see them in game because they're only in so few areas, and usually in those areas you're going to have a prawn suit anyway, so they don't end up being much of a bother, but because of their cooler design, I'm going to put them in B. Next, we've got the, oh Christ, I'm forgetting these things' names, the little crab spider things. And I don't know the long-legged ones either, but I'm kind of forgetting the name of the regular ones. I think they're just crab spiders. I might be wrong about that, but I've always been a fan of just crabs in general. And I really like the way this one has the longer legs, as that kind of mimics real life with like Japanese spider crabs where they've got really long legs and live at the bottom of the sea. But overall, at the end of the day, they're not the craziest design. But I think I'll put them in, actually I'll put them in A tier. Then we've got this, it's the kind of skeletal version of the hoopfish that lives, and this one lives in the abyss. I can't quite remember what they're called, but I've never been a big fan of the hoopfish in general. I think it's kind of not that interesting of a design. I think it's kind of basic, and I never thought they were particularly cool. But I'm going to put it as C tier, just because I do like the skeletal one a bit more than the regular version. Next we got the bone sharks. Now, the bone sharks, they're kind of cool, but at the same time, I don't know, they've never been too interesting to me. They were scary when I was new to the game, but they're just kind of like an old fish, similar to that real life fish. I can't remember what they're called, like coelacanths or something, where they look very fossilized. But I do think that they could have done a bit more interesting things with the bone shark, so I'm going to put it as C. Oh, whoops. Now we're on to the Boomerang. I think the Boomerang, for what it is a pretty cool design. It's pretty unique. Obviously it's shaped like a boomerang, and that's what makes it pretty cool. I like catching them. I like how they look. So I'm gonna put them, I'll put them in I'm struggling between A and B. I'll put them as an A tier actually because they're really unique. Next, onto the regular kind of crab spider thing. Now, once again, I do really like them, but I just really like crabs in real life. So, and I do think they are less cool than the Abyss versions because I just really like that they've got those really long legs. So I'll put this as a B tier. Next, I've got the crab snake, and I think that these are pretty scary and they're pretty cool. However, I don't tend to like serpent enemies too much because I think they tend to be pretty generic. I think they're kind of like a go-to when people can't come up with other ideas for making unique kind of scary creatures. So I'll put it as a B because of how scary it is and especially where it lives, but I don't think it is the most original design. Next, we've got the crab squid. Once again, sorry if I'm forgetting some of these names, it's been a while, but I've always really liked the crab squids because I really think octopus and squids are really cool. Love crabs, and I really like the way this thing has an EMP blast. I think that's a really unique design. I love how they look. They're very scary when you see them in game, especially when you're new to the game, and they've just got great design all around, so I'm going to put them in S tier, and that'll be the first one in S tier. Next, we've got the classic crashfish, the thing that probably wouldn't have managed to evolve in real life, but I don't know, I've always thought crashfish were kind of ugly. They're pretty unique in how they work, I guess. I mean, they are kind of just a suicide explosive enemy, which sure has been done before. They're kind of annoying, and I like the design, like I like the overall idea and how they were implemented, but I think I'm gonna put them as a D tier just because of they don't pose much of a challenge, but they're kind of annoying and they're not the craziest enemy out there. Next, we've got the cute fish. Instant S. I'm just joking. They're pretty cool. I like them. They're cute. I like having it around. They're kind of glitchy sometimes, though. They're decently unique as a creature, but there could have been more done. Of course, they had certain constraints because they had to make sure it was cute and it didn't look too crazy. Otherwise, obviously, it wouldn't be too cute. So I'll put it as B. Next, we've got the eye, and although this is a really simple creature, I'm a big fan of the way that it kind of like moves around with almost like sails on it, like almost like a mix between a jellyfish and a fish, just a regular one. I also really like the giant eye. I don't know, I tend to like when creatures have these giant eyes. So I'm a big fan of the eyes, and I'll put them as an A tier. Next, we've got the floater. This is just the regular floater. It's still pretty cool, but it's not quite as cool as the huge ones, which of course, at the end of the day, they're the same species, but I'm going to put these ones as C tier because, man, are the massive ones just so much cooler. And floaters, I don't know, I feel like they have kind of wasted potential. Something could have been done with them, but I'm not sure what. Gary fish I've always thought were really ugly. Honestly, in my first few playthroughs, I don't think I ever I managed to see one somehow, and then eventually I finally saw them. I have no idea how that happened, but they're pretty ugly, and honestly, I don't even tend to grab them for food that much, and even then, that's their only reason I'd ever grab them or even bother to look at them, so I'm going to put them as E tier. Next, we've got the gastropods, I can't quite remember, but these are a pretty unique design. I like the way they've got a gas mask, though that is kind of, I don't know, it's a bit too coincidental, I guess, because the fact that it ends up looking like a gas mask, obviously because they shoot out gas, but they end up being kind of annoying and usually just end up being stinky all around my base in the safe shallows. So, but overall, I think they're decently cool. I'm struggling between C and B. I think I'm going to go with C because I do think that they could have used a bit of a different design to make them look less, I don't know, unrealistic, I guess, with the gas mask look. Next we've got the Ghost Leviathan. Now this is a serpent enemy, which once again I'm not a huge fan of because they tend to kind of be like a go-to, maybe like a cliche if you will. But this one this one has a lot of wasted potential. It's really scary. It makes a lot of noise that's like it screeches and that's horrifying. However, it doesn't tend to do much. It doesn't tend to be in the way of anything. It's not, I don't know, every time I see them, there's always an easy path around them. I felt like they're really a lot of wasted potential. So I'm going to put them in C tier for the way they can really be scary, but, or at least if they were used right, they would have been really scary. Next we're going to go with the Ghost Rays. I really like Stingrays and Manta Rays and anything like that. I think the Ghost Rays are really beautiful in game, and while they aren't the most original design, I think they really make up for it in just how nice they are to look at with their glow. So I'm going to put them in B tier. Next we got the Holefish. I don't know, I've never been the biggest fan of the Holefish. It's kind of unique, but it's, I don't know, just doesn't really appeal to me that much, so I think I'm going to put it with the Crashfish in D tier. I don't know, I've always just ignored them. Hoopfish, I've already mentioned, not a big fan of the Hoopfish. I'm rotating it by accident, and I'm just going to put it in D tier because I don't know why. Hell, I might even put it in E tier because I really don't like it. Next, we've got the Hoverfish, and Hoverfish is cute. I really like its design. I love the way it has those paddles on the side, and I love the way that it moves, like in terms of lore, that it does something with like ionizing the water. I think that's really cool. I'm not sure how practical that would be in real life, or if that even be possible. But if we're willing to kind of suspend our disbelief, I think it's a really unique fish for what it is. And I mean, it almost doesn't even look like a fish. It could be almost look like a salamander or something. So I'm going to put it in S tier because I think it's one of the coolest fish, and I love it. Next we've got the Jelly Ray, if I remember correctly. And I don't know, I've got mixed feelings about the Jelly Ray. It's cool and I liked them at first, but I kind of grew tired of them, and their glow is cool, but man, the Ghost Rays are just, I think, are cooler, and these ones just kind of look weird a lot of the time, and I'm running out of room on C, so I think I'm gonna put them here, though, and I might end up moving the, you know what, no, I'm not going to move anything, and I'm just going to have this kind of sticking out, which, yeah, looks a bit weird, but it'll stay like that. Next we've got the, oh, I'm forgetting the name, is it Shuttle Bug or Scuttle Bug? These little things. I've actually been a pretty big fan of these. I like the way they look. I like the weird kind of clicking sounds they make. For what they are, which is just kind of like the scavenger thing that doesn't really do much. Like, of course, not everything can do much. So I think it lives up to its potential, if you will, being just kind of doing its own thing as a scavenger. I like how it moves around. I'll put it as an A tier because I like seeing them around. Next we've got the other ii. I'll just put it in A tier. I don't think, you know what, I actually, it's actually quite a bit uglier. I'm going to put it in B just because I think the original ii looks much better. Next we've got the, oh crap, I can't remember these guys. The Lava Leech, I think, which takes power from your stuff. They're really annoying, but man, they've got a pretty cool design for what they are, which is just some sort of leech creature. I like the way they do take energy from stuff. It's a unique kind of property that they have, and a unique challenge in the game. But yeah, they're only in the lava zone, and they're usually not the hardest to avoid. But for their unique design and how they work, I'll put them in B tier. And yeah, this is not a long enough tier list for everything. Lava lizards, I absolutely despise them. I think they are incredibly ugly. I don't think they're the most original design. I think this is something that anyone could have come up with, and I don't think it lives up to par with what most of the other fish look like. They have a design that a 10-year-old can end up drawing. It's just a fish with big teeth. It's ugly. Doesn't really do much. F tier. Next we've got this boomerang, which is the lava rang, I think, or lava boomerang. I don't remember its exact name. Overall, it's pretty similar to the boomerang. Just gonna put it in A tier. I like the boomerang a bit more, but not enough to warrant that the lava rang goes into a lower bracket because they're both pretty cool. Mesmers, I think mesmers are really cool. Really unique design on what they do. Watching them hunt is really cool. When they hypnotize you, it's really interesting, and the way that they have these weird mandibles that pop out, and just everything about them, the way they're designed, I think they're really unique. They're really cool. Love the way they open up. I'm gonna put them in S tier. Next we've got the Oculus, which I should have put the Peeper first, but this is basically the depth version of the Peeper, and I really like the Oculus. I think it's really cool looking, but and I'm struggling between S and A because here we'll put the Peeper in first. Like the Peeper, it's really iconic, and I love the design of the big yellow eye. It's a really nice fish to introduce you to the game because it doesn't look too scary, but it looks pretty unique in terms of what it is, and it really represents the game. But the thing about the Oculus is it doesn't quite represent the game as much, and you don't just see them as much, and the Peepers you see everywhere, and they've got plot relevance and everything, while the Oculus just kind of exists. But I do like the Oculus design quite a lot, so I think I'll keep them together there. And honestly, maybe with this list I shouldn't have even included the kind of abyss versions of creatures. Next, the Rabbit Ray. I've never liked the Rabbit Ray. I thought it always looked really ugly. I guess it's got some interesting property, which I think has like poison or something, but I still think it's just ugly, and you can't even use them for food, and I think they could use a touch-up in terms of their design, because it'd be nice seeing this kind of small ray in the safe shallows, but I don't think the Rabbit Ray was a good one for that. Next we have the Reaper Leviathan. Now, it's a serpent, but it was one of the first Leviathans as far as I know. It was very early in development that this was added. As far as I know, it might have been there since the start. And it's scary for what it is. It's a serpent, but it was one of the first. So I can't fault them exactly for having at least one serpent-like enemy, because after all, you can't... I think it makes sense to add at least a few, or at least one. And it's pretty scary for what it is, and still unique in a lot of ways, like with those giant kind of mandibles that it has on its front with the spike on its head. It's pretty scary. I remember back when they stayed near the Aurora entrance, and that was horrifying. So I'm going to put them in A tier for the fact that they're iconic and they've got a pretty cool design. Next we've got the Lava Ray, which I think the Lava Ray is pretty dang cool. Similar to the Ghost Ray. Now, there's a lot of bias here, and I just like rays, and I like how it looks. I like how mana rays look, so I would put it in B tier, but due to the fact that it's not quite the most unique thing, and it's not quite as pretty as the Ghost Ray, I will put it in C tier because I think that a lot of people would probably not like it as much as I do. I think I have too much bias with that one. Reefbacks, I love reefbacks. They're scary at first, maybe, when you don't know what they are. Especially with the sound they make. When you hear that in the distance, that can be quite horrifying. But as you get more experience and you realize that it's a friendly kind of thing, it's like a whale of Subnautica, basically. You've used them for a lot of comfort, and I think they're a really cool design to kind of be this large, friendly, or at least passive Leviathan. So, I think I'll put them in S tier because, man, I really like reefbacks. Next, the Reginald. Now, the Reginald is a fish I always forget about, but I really do like its design when I see it. It's just, I rarely ever pay attention to them when I'm in game. So, for the fact that they're so, I don't know, seemingly non-existent in a way that I don't even notice them, but yet I really do like their design, and I think they're very cool looking. I think I'll put them in B tier. Just because if they had maybe more things that were unique about them, I'd put them a bit higher. Oh, sorry for the zoom there. Ah, crap. Okay, I'm kind of messed up how everything looks now, but that's okay. Next, we'll move on to the rock grub. Now, the rock grub, I bet a lot of people don't even know that this thing existed. You see them kind of just on rocks every once in a while. They're tiny. For what they are, they fulfill their purpose, I guess. Can't really do much with them. So, I don't know if I necessarily, like, I could put them in C tier, but because they're just kind of there, and for what they are, they're there, but I think I'll end up just deleting them because, I don't know, they're not consequential enough, I guess. They don't do anything. Okay, next we've got the sand shark. Now the sand shark's really ugly. I thought they've always been pretty ugly, but they are scary when you see them, and they do have a pretty unique body and how they work, and they've got the kind of ambush tactic, which I think is pretty cool. And I think, due to the fact that they're very unique, although they're ugly, I'll put them in B tier, but that's kind of leaning towards an A. So yeah, I think that's a good spot for them. Next, we've got the Sea Dragon Leviathan. Now, this one's a tough one, because in a way it's scary due to the strength it has, but they're pretty easy to avoid. I really don't like some of the design choices. I don't like the fact that they gave it arms like that. It made it way too kind of humanized. I don't like that they made it such a classic kind of dragon head, because that just removes the fear from it. It doesn't seem alien. It seems really familiar. Just seems like a somewhat human, somewhat dragon. I'm sure it has the tentacles at the back, but that's the most interesting part about it. So I'm going to put it as a D tier just because of it had a lot of potential, and it could have been something completely different, and it would have been a lot cooler. Now onto the Sea Emperor. Now, to me, the Sea Emperor would be a scarier Leviathan than the Sea Dragon Leviathan. I don't know why they didn't, like, switch this around and maybe change the Sea Dragon to look a bit friendlier, I guess, but, like, this one has those kind of almost scythe-like hands, like a mantis or something, and the face is so much more alien, that in a way, if I saw this kind of like making horrifying roars and coming at me, I think I'd be much more scared. But even for what it is, I like the design. I think it's cool, and you can see they kind of probably have some sort of common ancestry, which is cool. And I think it's got plot relevance. I like talking to it. I don't know, I guess connected with the character. I really like the Sea Emperor. I thought it was pretty dang cool to talk to them. And I'm going to put them in A tier for that. Next, we've got the Sea Treaders, and although I have quite a lot of hours and I've done multiple playthroughs of Subnautica, I've actually never visited the Sea Treaders area. But from what I've seen, I think they're really cool looking. I think they've got a really interesting design to them. So I think that puts them into A tier. Not much to say about them besides that. I just think they're really cool. Sky Rays, they exist, they fly, they look kind of shitty in game, can't really tell what they are. They're a flying thing. Maybe if they made them look a bit better in game and maybe expanded upon them and maybe add something kind of different to make them look unique, I'd rate them higher. But due to their really simple look, I'm going to put them in D. Next we got the Spadefish. Now Spadefish is really interesting to me because it's both really ugly, but I still like its design for its uniqueness with the giant eye that looks upwards. Maybe it should have lived deeper down, because then that eye facing up would make a bit more sense. But yeah, I'm very conflicted with the Spadefish, so I'm gonna put it in C tier just because of how it's so ugly, but at the same time pretty damn unique, and I admire it for the uniqueness that it has. Though it's kind of useless and doesn't really have too much of cool lore as far as I know. Next, okay, next we're doing the, some sort of eel. I can't remember what these are called. Skeleton eels? Man, I don't know. But these I don't know, most of the time when I go down to where they're supposed to be, I rarely ever have an issue with them. I rarely even notice them because they seem to just never be in the way. Maybe they should put them in areas that you'd be more likely to pass by because they are near some like bases, but maybe still too far away that they don't ever come at you or anything. Um, they're decently like scary, but they're still an eel kind of enemy, and there's not too much crazy design with them. So due to the fact that they're so inconsequential and they don't look that crazy, I'm gonna put them in D tier. Um, Stalkers. Now, Stalkers look pretty cool to me. They're really they're near the safe shallows, obviously, just being in the green kelp. So, for what they are, for the fact that they're kind of an introductory enemy, obviously they couldn't make something like a ghost leviathan sitting there. It'd have to be something that's not crazy scary, but man, when you're new to the game, these are still just as these are just still very horrifying. And they kind of look like the thing from Ice Age, was it Ice Age 2, the purple thing. And I think they're really cool. I'm gonna put them in A tier, because they're really well designed for what they are. Next, we've got Warpers, and Warpers. Oh man, Warpers. Warpers, I think, have a really interesting design. Not sure if I'm necessarily the biggest fan, especially with the head area. Maybe they could have had an even more alien design to them because they're still kind of vaguely humanoid. But like with the kind of way they're synthetic, and they've got those Reaper arms. Oh, and I just realized, yeah, they seem to be quite based on the Emperor, which that's pretty damn interesting. I'm not sure if that's said in game. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but they've got like the interesting abilities. If only they posed a bit more of a threat. But for what they are, I think as something to avoid and something to be decently scared of, and because they've got interesting lore, I'm gonna put them as an A tier. So that's basically it. I used most of these pictures from the wiki. I think I might have missed some sort of amoeba creature, but I don't even remember seeing them. So I just chose to ignore them because even then they pretty much just look like giant floaters, and as far as I know they don't really do anything cool, so they probably wouldn't have made it very high on this list anyway, and I thought they were kind of useless to rate. So yeah, this is ultimately the list. And I don't know if y'all agree, but that's it.